Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are and when you are catching this transmission. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. Everybody take a deep breath. If you're still here and you're watching this, regardless of what platform you're finding it on, you made it another day, and that in itself is a victory as far as I'm concerned. So welcome back, everyone, especially to my subscribers and especially my subscribers on Subscribestar. That is something that if you feel really called to support this work and these transmissions and the astrology reports, you can go to the link in the description box, actually, and go to Subscribestar and subscribe to all of this work for only $3 a month. I think it's a steal considering how much content and the quality of it is available. So, and if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. And as usual, I always like to remind people that your interaction with this content, regardless of the platform you find yourself on, actually does make an impact on the recommendations in other people's feeds and making an impact on the algorithm. So thank you for doing that in advance. So, how is everyone doing? I do feel like there was a significant lift from yesterday. It was pretty gnarly, wasn't it? I've had some pretty intense and very amazing conversations in the last day. I myself have been having conversations with myself as well. And I think we've reached a point now where I wouldn't necessarily say the dust has settled. And yesterday with the transmission, here, let me get out of studio mode here. Yesterday with the transmission, I mentioned that today's astrology would be pretty mellow, and then I retracted that immediately, just looking at all of the lunar transits, right? All of the connections to Neptune and Pluto and Venus in Capricorn, because our moon is still going to be moving through Leo all through today and won't move into Virgo until tomorrow. So we have some very, very challenging astrology coming up tomorrow and into Christmas Day that I will go into way more detail tomorrow when we do the general astrology report, the report for the fourth lunar quarter up to the new moon per sign, right? The horoscope forecast that's going to be dropping here throughout today and tomorrow in order to give you some insight on the areas of your life that these really difficult transits are going to impact. So we're not really talking about Chiron, and I really, really wanted to do that yesterday, and it just felt like so much had to be caught up on yesterday. So we're going to talk a little bit about Chiron today. We're going to talk about how Jupiter is going to be moving into Pisces very soon, actually on the 28th, and it's a sigh of relief. I can't even tell you how much I personally, as a Jupiter-ruled person, I am looking forward to it so much. And we actually are going to see it reflected in today's intuitive reading as part of the transmission, the Jupiter and Pisces dynamic, because Jupiter is the co-ruler of Pisces, right? Rules Sagittarius, and then also rules Pisces, and it's expansive because Jupiter's expansive, but Pisces is limitless, it's infinite, and it is in fact the universal solvent. And so today's transmission is titled Forgiveness is the Universal Solvent, because we got to talk about Chiron direct now, because since roughly about, I'd say, August, when Chiron stationed retrograde and Jupiter, came into Pisces very briefly around Beltane, right? Around May, or maybe a little bit after Beltane, actually, like right before the moon or the sun moved into Gemini, kind of like late Taurus. We'll look at the chart and really piece it together. But Jupiter came into Pisces just for a little while before it stationed retrograde. Chiron had just started to enter its pre-retrograde shadow at 12 to 13 degrees of Aries, a really potent degree in terms of symbolism for Aries in particular. So there was this some overlap here that we're going to have soon again, right? Because now that Chiron is direct, it's going to be moving through all of that territory that it went through up to its retrograde in August, and there was an overlap with Jupiter coming into Pisces. So, I mean, sigh of relief, right? Jupiter wants to be in Pisces. It likes to be in Pisces. It's, the realm of infinite potential and limitless possibilities in Pisces. Is definitely a territory that Jupiter likes to be in and finds a lot of familiarity and power in, because Jupiter is limitless expansion of the higher mind and our understanding, right? All the potential is larger than life. And so it'll be, I feel, and many astrologers have all kinds of ways that they are going to explain Jupiter coming into Pisces, but it really does feel like a sigh of relief, because with Jupiter being in Aquarius twice now, right? Because that's what happened in the last retrograde. It dipped into Pisces for a little while and then retrograde back into Aquarius, and has been there since the summer and moving up to this point. And it has been very pointed, right? It has been, keeping us in our lane despite our best efforts of trying to get out of it, and has been almost, there's some discipline we've really had to bring forward in order to hold ourselves steady while we are just being bombarded with thunderbolt after thunderbolt after thunderbolt to keep us in line with, the value system that we really want to align with and to be part of, right? Our collective value system. So when Jupiter comes into Pisces, it's going to be like, ugh. And it's not going to be a retrograde like it was last time. It is going to move through Pisces unimpeded for quite a while. And we'll find that actually when Chiron leaves its post-retrograde shadow in the spring. This time frame, and this is not new. We've talked about how the eclipse cycle set us up for this 6 months. It was the set the tone for the purification, the cleansing, the karmic release, all of these things that are deeply embedded that need to be seen and cleared away before we can even move into the next cycle successfully. And so the eclipses set it up, and now it's unfolding, and we are going through all kinds of stages that represent that, but it is there's no getting around it now. And now that Chiron is direct, we've had a lot of time to internalize our wounds, our inner child trauma. Maybe it has just been kind of gestating under the surface, right? Mars in Sagittarius today is really representing the fact that has been happening, and we're ready to act on it now. What has been the alchemical fire that purifies has been active, and it's time to erupt in some ways, and Mars is a great agent for that. But now that Chiron is direct, it's unavoidable, and it's on the surface, and it's being reflected back to us, and it's not necessarily under the surface gestating out of our conscious awareness. It's right here, and it is gnarly. It's gnarly, and people are really we talked about the word struggle yesterday, so when I say that is in reference to people are struggling. There's nothing wrong with you if you're struggling. You are not necessarily doing something wrong. And the struggle is the process of growth and evolution and really healing ourselves, right? It's a process. And sometimes it's really painful to go through. Just like if anybody's ever had to do physical therapy before, or if you have a really strong background in some sort of movement art, like especially Hatha yoga, for instance, and the different subcategories of Hatha yoga, you know that like the when you are first opening your body, it's painful. And sometimes you push yourself beyond what you can safely do, and then you injure yourself. And so sometimes we want to push forward this healing process before we're actually capable of doing so. And then we just reinforce, the we reinforce it. And I'm laughing because I think about how many times I've been through this situation from trauma. Well, I mean, we could get into, if we really want to get metaphysical and esoteric, we can talk about past life trauma, ancestral trauma, and those things are all wrapped into a neat little package now. They're kind of inseparable from each other because we are closing out a massive cycle for humanity. So it's all getting brought up regardless, right? It's all getting brought up, and it's getting brought up very clearly right now. And we have to be, I would say, it's really important that we don't squash these things. And we talked about that yesterday, right? I really want to validate where people are at. And you may think, as I had done before, that you have settled something or put it to bed because you, in your mind, and you intellectualized it, but then you found that there's still density hiding, right? There's still pockets of it that are hiding in your field, or that are just so deeply embedded that we haven't even gotten to that layer yet. And you'll find, especially Chiron direct now, you will find those pockets of density or those shadows that are so deeply embedded you didn't even know they were there. Oh, they're coming. They're coming up if they haven't already. And I can say that with my own, like I said, I've been through this many times, where I think that I have worked through a very difficult childhood experience of abuse, and it comes out of nowhere in your body, right? And it just shakes you, and it sideswipes you, and you're like, oh, I thought I was done with this, but I am completely triggered and reacting in a survival way when there's nothing around me. I mean, this is what PTSD is. And sometimes I hesitate to say that you can never release it all, because I don't know. But what I can say, after decades of working so diligently and so directly and so deeply on my own trauma, is that just like a scar, like a physical scar, you may always have some sort of imprint on your soul. And it's important to remember, too, that trauma in and of itself is the mechanism in which, people are, their psychic abilities and their intuitive nature, and all of these types of abilities are unlocked through intentional trauma, like ritualistic abuse and things like that. I don't even know, can I talk about that on YouTube? So if, there's no going back and changing those situations necessarily. And why would you want to? Now, there are lots of ways that you can have an impact on the energetic template of that situation, and that is an individual type of journey that I certainly could guide you through if that's something that you're interested in, because I've had my own process of doing that. But it's, like I said, Chiron, it's unavoidable now. And forgiveness is the solvent, right? We want justice, and I understand that completely. But when we live in a society that is fundamentally built on a lack of justice, true justice, if we wait for it, or if we are relying on that, we will never really heal, or at least we will never come to the next plateau of our healing if we're waiting for that. And forgiveness isn't for the other person, although I'm sure if they want your forgiveness for whatever, it will also be a healing moment for them. But it's really for us. It's the individual doing the forgiving that releases the burden. And the full moon, regardless of where you found it in your chart, was the release of that burden, or showing at least what the burden that needed to be released. And forgiveness of ourselves is a big part of this as well. Forgiving of ourselves, forgiving those that have, attempted to disempower us, and to release it. And when we do that, that is Pisces. That is Pisces. And so when Jupiter comes into Pisces, and just like a complete washover of forgiveness and compassion and very expansive, universal, unconditional love. I think that this is going to, if that is your goal, if in fact you are invested in this process and you really, really want to make a big impact on your healing journey through forgiving, Jupiter is going to be on your side. It's really going to assist in this process, the biggest assist we could probably ever get in this realm. And it's going to come through our own search, our own wisdom, our own work, right? It's nobody's going to do it for us, and we can't continue to rely on the world outside of us necessarily to get right in a certain way before we're going to feel like we're okay. And again, if we want the outside world to reflect a healed, and again, not entirely healed, it's a dynamic process that really just never ends. But if we want the world outside of us and our relationships and our experiences to reflect all of these aspects of healing and compassion and forgiveness and trust, then we have to cultivate it within us. And again, you can really see how the division of all of our attention and all of our energy and the siphoning of it keeps us from doing like the most fundamental work that each of us needs to do, which is to be in this Pisces realm. And Neptune has been very instrumental in this if we understood coming into its prograde what it represents, right? Otherwise, you're getting caught up in the flow of everything else and you just lose yourself, right? This is why astral and energetic hygiene, that's really instituted in Virgo, by the way, the opposite of Pisces, is essential. It's essential. And I think it's very interesting that Alpha Draconis and the Draco starseed resonance in Virgo, that's where it starts, right? You become aware of the incredible power of the Kundalini, for instance, and how you direct it and what you do with it is going to make a difference the rest of the cycle, right? It's very difficult once you pass that point to go back and fix things once you're on the path, right? Everything else is when you start to engage with the world outside of you and you're in contractual, be legal, that can be in your relationships, and that can be magical, right? That can be ritualistic and magical. That's a binding contract in that realm, and you've already allowed for the Draco signature to the dark side of it, right? If you allow it to rule you as opposed to you handling it and using it for your own healing, then the rest of the cycle is you really don't have any choice until you get back to Pisces and to let it all go, because that's where you don't get away from it. So there's a lot of information here. So let's actually look at the chart and kind of ground it into some reality here. And I'm going to check in with the chat real quick, and it's all bots. So hold on one second, guys. I'm going to report all of these bots and remove them. And I guess that means that people are paying attention. I'm not exactly sure what this is about necessarily. If anybody has any insight on why I would be getting all of these bots in the chat like this, when I've never had that before. Like in the 2 years that I've been doing this, I've never had this level of bot activity. So I must be doing something right to get all of this unwanted attention. So anyway, guys, so I'm gonna move in here to the, what we're gonna do first is open this. There we go. And I'm going to move myself over here just for a moment. All right. So I hope everyone is doing well. And like I said, when we get into the transmission for the day, right, when we look at the reading and look at the astrology for today, which we will do, it'll be a lot more focused on where we go from here. And kind of, this is a real preparation moment because, like I said, it's very difficult astrological transits for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, or the 24th and 25th, right? You don't have to celebrate Christmas to be here. And you know, Saturn squaring Uranus is getting stronger and stronger. Venus retrograde is going to meet Pluto again. Mars in conjunction with Antares is going to trine Chiron, by the way. So, I mean, these are incredibly potent moments and geometrical angles that are created that are going to influence or certainly have an impact on each of us in our own way. And so today is kind of like this moment of peace of mind, I feel like, after seriously like a week, if not more, of really erratic solar energy, right? Especially since the full moon. It's been pretty remarkable. Some people may have had a revelation at that full moon in its entirety, right? Like one big download or one big revelation in that moment. But I suspect that many people, and myself included, spent the week really processing that full moon in its entirety. So the package may have come in one big file, but we have spent the last week unpacking and unzipping that file, and it has been incredible and painful, so painful. Going into places that I haven't been in a really long time, which really struck a chord with me in terms of realizing how much we come back around in this kind of spiral experience, and we have another layer to unpack and another layer to clear away. And when we realize that it's all so cyclical, it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off of like, I have to get it all figured out now so then I can step into my mission and that is the mission, right? If you're a starseed or a light worker, I mean, we have roles to play that is in assisting through this whole process of humanity, but we have to actually participate in the clearing away of a lot of density. And the United States as a country, as we talked about in the eclipse report, is in fact, I mean, the solar eclipse was exactly on the U.S. ascendant. So it's not, it's in many layers and graduated upwards. And that is actually very related to Saturn right now. And we'll get into that later. So we are looking here at the 15th. Oh, hi, Barb. There is a human here. Yay. Happy birthday, by the way. It's good to see you. And you wrote an incredible testimonial that I will be getting up on my website very soon, and I will be giving you a reading. Oh, that was what I wanted to say. I have some announcements because some people aren't on social media, and if you're not on my mailing list, you really do miss out on a lot of the offers that I give. So you can always go to the website that's in the description box and get on my mailing list, and it's just pops up on the first on the page, on the home page. But I'm offering solstice and starseed readings, 30-minute readings for $44, 60-minute readings for $77, and then I'm offering an hour of energy work and Reiki and a 30-minute intuitive reading afterwards for I don't remember what I think I might have also said $77, but maybe $90. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back. But if you're interested in those things, and also if you've had any work with me, or even if you haven't and you're just a subscriber, I'm offering a gift exchange, a free micro reading to anybody who wants to leave a review or a testimonial for me. You can also do that on my website, and it will submit it right to me, and I'll put it up on the website. And if you've already submitted one in the past, you can totally cash in on this. This is like one of my favorite things to do. I do it every year because word of mouth and testimonials is like gold to a small business. So your support in that way is so appreciated, and I love to give these little micro readings. They're a great energetic tune-up. So, and yeah, that's the announcement I want to make. Okay, back to the astrology. So we're looking at May, and May 15th to be exact, and we see right here that Jupiter has moved into Pisces at this point. Chiron is still direct at this point. We have, the Sun is now in conjunction with the Pleiades, so we're moving into the Pleiadian lineup at this point when Jupiter has moved into Pisces. In fact, the Sun is actually in conjunction within a degree of Algol, or the head of the Gorgon. So there was, again, that sigh of relief very briefly last spring before Chiron had stationed retrograde. So if we go forward like a week, another week, so now we're getting into the territory that Chiron is going to station retrograde in and then move back to where it just stationed direct, which is 8 to 9 degrees of Aries. So let's see here. I just want to make sure we're looking. So here's solstice right here. So Jupiter's still direct in Pisces. Chiron is still direct. Starting to feel some frustration here. And Pluto is roughly where it is now. Actually, it's actually where Venus is right now, but it's retrograde. Saturn is very close to where it is now. So you can see that in the summer, there was some overlap here in certain ways. And you see that at this point, we're coming into the solstice in June. But then right after that is when Jupiter stations retrograde in Pisces, right? And starts to go back to make its way over to Aquarius, where it's been since then, right? And then we see that Chiron, I'm just trying to find the right date here. I believe it might even be July that it stationed retrograde. Yes, because they're, where we go? There it is. So mid-July is when it stations retrograde. It's right in opposition to Libra, the moon in Libra, actually. So that was, now it's time to start pulling in and internalizing these things. You can see that the whole realm of the outer planets, for the most part, and Chiron is an asteroid, they were all retrograde at this point in July. So this is what we were dealing with July. So Jupiter is still in Pisces, but it was retrograde. So, about April, May into June, things, seemed less shitty than they do now. But then, but things weren't actually, there was a lot of frustration in terms of the individual potential, right? And there was a lot of frustration and a lot of adolescent frustration with Chiron and Aries, and then it's stationed direct. So we started to go back in terms of where is this frustration coming from? Because we reached a point where we felt it, and we felt like that we weren't really getting to where we wanted to go, but we knew where we were going, right? We see the big picture, or we see where we're going, but we want to get there faster. And just like being an adolescent, that's like, I want to be an adult. Like, I want to be an adult, and I want not responsibility. I want to be taken seriously. I want to do what I want. Why doesn't anybody listen to me? All of the adolescent traits that we've all had. Then it kind of started to go back in. So now we find ourselves here, and now Chiron is in its direct motion. Jupiter is about to come back into Pisces. And so this will be, like I said, a sigh of relief. And we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about our trauma. We've learned a lot about our inner child wounding. We've learned a lot about our wounded healer identity and our shame and guilt for just wanting to be ourselves and to actualize our own potential. And now we are hopefully focused on who we are, and not getting our attention diverted or split or taken off the concentrated attention on the potential of who we can be. But now that Chiron's direct, it's going to start being more visible. It's going to be start more accessible. We're going to start actually having to work on the healing aspect. But like I said, when Jupiter moves into Pisces on the 28th, actually, if we look here, before the calendar new year turns over, Jupiter comes back into Pisces. So I feel like that is going to be our first real dose of the solvent, and that is forgiveness, right? We have to forgive ourselves. Like I said, we have to forgive other people. We have to, we do have to. We absolutely have to. You can choose not to. You can choose to stay in your victimhood. You can choose to stay in savior mode or wounded healer mode because you don't know who you would be otherwise without that identity. Or you can just put your head in the sand and not even acknowledge anything is going on in this realm and be like, I have nothing to heal. That's foolish. But if we are in alignment with this ability to forgive, to exercise compassion, which is one of the most difficult paths. Manifestation is easy, right? We can, or whatever, manifestation, knowledge, illumination. There's a lot of spiritual pathways that are not nearly as difficult as the one of compassion, true compassion and forgiveness. It's by far the most difficult path, but it's the one we all have to travel. I mean, I feel like that is what we're kind of getting set up for in some ways with all of these transits. So I just wanted to bring attention to what's going on with Chiron and how important it is that we are exercising forgiveness on so many levels and really just allowing ourselves to finally breathe a sigh of relief and to let go and to find ourselves in communion with with Great Spirit or with Source or with God, because that is the fundamental experience of compassion and forgiveness. When you are inseparable from everything else around you, you have how else could you be anything but compassionate and unconditionally loving, because it's all the same and it's all coming from the same source. So it's important work, and I really just honor all of us who are doing it, because it's not easy, and lots of people continue to kind of take the brunt of the collective's work or lack of work in this area. But at the same time, it's not as how do I say this? When the thing about Aquarius is that that's not happening anymore, right? And Saturn being here is a big part of this. So, and there will be lots of Aquarian, energy in just the next 2 months, right? Because Mercury is going to come into Aquarius, station retrograde, right where Saturn is right now. So put a pin in that. Of course, the sun will move into Aquarius as well. So Venus will later, but she's retrograde now. So she's going to be in Capricorn for a while longer. Okay, guys. So we'll get back to today's astrology in just a moment. So I think we can look at the reading today and kind of give ourselves some, give ourselves some archetypal input, some imagery here to inspire us and to orient ourselves, right? And to see what kind of messages came through today. The real work is through this process of forgiveness, right? So, all right, guys. So we have two queens of the earth coming up in this reading today. One is on our horizontal axis here, and the other is in a reversal position with the Queen of Keys as kind of a guidance position. So here, I mean, this is Venus in Capricorn all day, right? This is definitely Venus in Capricorn all day. It is, you can see that she has the globe in her hand. There's the Capricorn, the mountain goat that's represented here, her staff. There's a lot of geometry involved, and anything about Capricorn really is related to sacred geometry, geometric fractals, as being the basis of the material reality that we live in. Is just an expression of mathematics through geometric configurations, and then we interface with those things and they have a form. So it's all throughout kind of Capricorn imagery, all this sacred geometry and references to the material, references to crystals and minerals and things of that nature. It is very much related to those things. So this causal factor here, this Queen of Discs, if we were to just break it down here in terms of the specific things that are related to this card, I mean, this is the perfect mother, right? The Queen of Discs, the Queen of Pentacles. the Queen of Keys, right? Stable, reliable, emotional. She is protecting her home, her family, her kingdom. She's calm, she's practical, she's tender, she's kind, right? She's got the earth and the water together. This is very feminine. Now, there is an interesting side to this energy here that is, you know, mother's little helper type of energy, right? There's a tendency towards debauchery or intoxication that is very well hidden, right? And this comes, I think, from the element of water, that it allows this representation to be conforming, but at the same time, it also leaves anybody who's represented by this open to being influenced and sometimes intoxication, right? Remember Venus and Scorpio, where the Seven of Cups is this debauchery, and what happens when we are when that very material aspect of us is impacted by the power of spirit and feeling. This is one way that it can express itself. But she is very truthful and sensual, and her focus here is on this vast area. It's not just about how, and I think that's also too where the debauch or the intoxication may come from. There's a lot of pressure here. There's a lot of responsibility here, and there is sometimes a need to release that pressure or the responsibility and the stress of it. So that can also be the case. But this is Venus in Capricorn all day. And this is our causal factor. So she's been in Capricorn for a while. So we can kind of feel into this individual being presented to us in some way, right? This may be us, right? This may be an identity that we've embodied in the past leading up to this moment. But there is a sense that we are being, you know, there's protection, there's a sense of responsibility and wisdom and grace here, and power. You know, Capricorn is about power, and this is about feminine power. So we also know that Lilith is in Cancer right now. June, the goddesses are also in a lot of earth signs, right? Ceres just came into Taurus. Asteroid Ceres came into Taurus. Asteroid Juno is also in Capricorn as well. So there is a lot of this feminine goddess energy in the, specifically in Capricorn, but the earth signs in general. So it's really grounding and stabilizing us, but also allowing us to be very sensitive to the needs and the provisions that are needed for those we are responsible for. It's not just about us and how we feel in our own comfort zone, which is what Venus often really represents. Yes, she represents relationships, but that's such a surface level read of Venus in my opinion and in my work. I mean, it's way more about the sensual, physical, sense-oriented world and how it makes us, you know, what our feelings are about it. And of course, relationships fit into that, but in a way that is more of the seventh house in Libra, which is the form of the relationship, not so much the substance of it. It's way more about the aesthetics and how it, again, our feelings and our sensitivity to it and how it impacts us. You know, Venus, again, she's really represents that part. So we can see here that there is this identity that we've embodied, somebody in our life is embodied, or we're just seeing it out there that is representative of this this feminine provider energy that has been active in a causal way, or certainly in some sort of linear chronological past. Now, here we are in the moment. Now, in this, when I talked about the intoxication, this is, you know, we so close to Venus, and they both rule signs that are opposite of each other as well. So again, it brings up kind of this need to take the edge off, right? It's very intense. And this person has a lot of responsibility on her plate here because she's holding this whole globe. So power comes with responsibility. And now that the sun, look at this thing. Now that the sun is in Capricorn, we're really finding a lot of our sustainment and our voice through this concept and this structure of power as well, as we do every year at December solstice. So there is a lot of this energy that has been grounding us, but also maybe stifling us, and certainly providing some really heavy experiences. Now, in this present moment, in the heart of the moment, the cross section between the outside and the inside, we have the Two of Swords, right? The moon in Libra, which, by the way, is where the moon will be for the third quarter square. The moon will be in the first decan of Libra, and it will be squaring the Capricorn sun. So we'll get into that tomorrow with the astrology, but this is peace of mind, right? There's a moment that we've had of peace of mind here that I think we've desperately really needed. So we can bring ideas to a specific form and an end, and this is the mind at its best, right? It doesn't get any better than this in the sword suit, is this first arrangement of differences, right? And it's the beginning of an analysis, and it's very balanced, right? It's not merging, it's not alchemizing, it's not sinking, and it's certainly not driving itself crazy with the mental activity. It's a moment of balance of these two contrasting principles that we have found some point in the middle where it will balance out. And a moon in Libra is allowing us to adapt to the world by transfiguring ourselves in order to find this balance. And I do feel like that today in particular, right, this is a very good reflection of overall what I'm picking up on, and of course myself, but just in general, that we've come to a point of just at least an arrangement of differences that we can start analyzing our own mind and our thoughts and where they're going and where they're being directed, and just maybe even seemingly opposite concepts as well, right? That there is a need to balance them out, and maybe it's about finding the fulcrum. And the fulcrum is right here in the middle of this little bowl here where these two swords come together. So, the vessel is where the moon wants to be, right? It wants to be in the vessel. So it's not exactly perfect, but there is a vessel here that at least shows us that there is a midpoint to otherwise contrasting ideas. And we're like just a moment of peace of mind. And that is, we need this right now because, of course, like I said, the weekend's astrology is brutal, and it's getting stronger every day, especially Saturn and Uranus. I mean, that is a very, very difficult transit, and and to have it over the holidays like this, I mean, it's and we'll go into the specifics by sign. Right? You'll get your video and we'll talk about it per, your sign. So, but what are we looking at energetically? Well, we know this isn't that hard. The initiation and the Count Saint Germain, right? We are moving into a higher revelation of our power, of our insight, our achievement. And this does require a loss of what we would consider lower vibe relationships and jobs and activities. But honestly, it's about healing the trauma so we can release the density. And the best way to do that is through forgiveness. And maybe it doesn't come easily at first. I mean, there are lots of things to be truly angry about if you've experienced incredible trauma. But the initiation and where we can, gather our power and where we can really root ourselves energetically is in this initiation process, to know that the struggle and the process of healing and going through the healing process and to release the density, to forgive, is part of the initiation process. And the disciplines that you create now in this process are going to matter. I promise they are going to matter. And I don't say that very often. I hardly ever promise anything. But I know that this will make a difference, because not only is it going to matter for the next time around that you are being tasked with something similar to this, you can model it and guide other people through this process as well, which is essentially what I've done, right? There's nothing that I share here that I haven't personally been through on some level and struggled through myself. And so we can really find our energetic root here in this recognition of this initiation process. And keep in mind, number 14 in the tarot is temperance, or the art of alchemy, right? We are transmuting these lower density types of experiences into the most divine state you can be in, which is in compassion and forgiveness and unconditional love. It's very important that we remember what it's all about. So in terms of where we can release this energy, the Six of Forces is the waterfall. It's just a reminder here and a place that we can focus that has to do with how powerful our feelings are, right? How powerful our spirit is and the flow of it. I mean, the waterfall will literally shape the landscape as a result of how powerful it is. Again, solvent, right? This waterfall is literally wearing down the rock at the bottom of it and creating a pool, and it's doing that over time. The water, our spirit, our feeling is life, and it's incredibly powerful. So we can release our energy here, even though there's like this peace of mind. We can give our mind a break for just a moment, right? And realize that if we root ourselves here in this initiation alchemical process, and realize that the releasing of the density, we can actually release it, like through the power of our own spirit, our own feelings, and this is incredibly potent. Because what to expect here, I mean, the Hierophant, this is coming up again. So the Hierophant is the high priest. It's the teacher. Sun in Sagittarius as the teacher of inner values, although we don't have the Sun in Sag anymore. We just have Mars at this point, and K2, or the South Node, not for much longer. But it also represents Jupiter in Pisces, right? Which is coming as a vision of eternity, right? Seeing into the full picture of things. So it is relevant, though, to the zodiacal sign of Taurus, right? The high priest. And Siddhartha, like the original Buddha, I believe, is, at least, I don't know how true this is, but he was characterized as a Taurus, right? And Taurus is where the North Node is going to be coming into, right? All this Pleiadian aspect with late Taurus is going to be so relevant. Ceres is now in late Taurus. This is something that is going to be beyond relevant, because this is incredibly experiential. And this has to do with being, this is fixed earth. And you can see all of the masks, right? Of all of the different animals. This is like a person, there's a bird, and then there's the cow. And I don't know what this particular mask is. Maybe somebody else does. And it is, you can see the five-pointed star, right? The pentacle on his crest, the three. I mean, there's just iconography all over this thing. You got the bull that is behind the priest. And he's kind of got this, if you remember, or if you've ever seen like the Sumerian tablets and the stories about the Anunnaki and the creator gods. I mean, it definitely got this vibe here in terms of what it looks like with the beard. It just kind of, it even has the coned cap, right? The elongated heads and the cone heads in terms of our potential, our ancestry that is potentially a different species. And Robert Seppert has great work about this from an anthropological viewpoint. So in terms of the Rh negative versus positive, and how it's very, very possible and in fact likely that distinct species, right? They're distinct species. Anyway, We'll get into that another time. I want to show you all. There's just so much symbolism here that you got the clover in the background, the three interlocking rings here, the Trinity. You have the silhouette from the Eon. She's got the crescent moon. She's got the light that's shining. I mean, there's a lot going on here. So, but Jupiter in Pisces, that's definitely a big part of it here. And let's see here. I want to get my notes. Okay, so it's about the search for knowledge and illumination, and it's a desire to study this and search for your inner truth rather than just accepting what we've been told. And there's a deep fulfillment in trusting one's own beliefs. This stuck out really strong as I was taking my notes to our own beliefs. I think that when Jupiter comes into Pisces, we're going to find that fulfillment in such a way that it'll seem like we were never even going to be able to get there. So trust in your instincts, search for inner truth, and wisdom and knowledge as an experience as opposed to dogma that has been presented or told to us. This is the Hierophant, number 5, right? This is the top of the pentacle, or the 5 is the bottom, right? That you have to then come out from. But it is also surpasses the 4 elements of the material world. So there's something very magical about this number as well. So this is pretty favorable in terms of where we're going. But, we do have to kind of embrace this Queen of Discs energy and give our mind just kind of like a respite or just peace of mind for one moment in order to really initiate this process. And then again, deep fulfillment in trusting ourselves. It's coming, right? It's definitely on its way. Just a couple more days. So now, when it comes to the initiation process and the guidance that's being offered here, the Queen of Keys is reversed. So now we see a reversal of this same basic water of earth energy, the divine feminine energy. And so when it's reversed, it does signal that, maybe there's an emotional distancing from a woman in authority in your life. There may be a difference of opinion or a dispute with a woman in authority or a business that you're related to, or you may be thinking about quitting what you're doing and moving into a new realm. And this, I think this has a lot to do with Venus retrograde and the fact that it's going to come back and meet Pluto again on the 25th. And so to remember that as powerful as that first conjunction was, this is going to be equally powerful. And now Venus is in its retrograde. So again, it's internalized in terms of our sensitivity to the world around us, our security, our comfort, but also too in Capricorn about our responsibility to each other, our responsibility to our own bodies, our responsibility to those that we are in relationship with. So you may find that this is the loss of those lower vibe things, being, either embodied in a person. You find that you are that person that is going to make changes or step away from something. But this really speaks to the Venus in retrograde meeting Pluto on the 25th. So this is a guidance point. This is a reminder. And along with that, there's the cat about, reminding us and giving us the message here. Oops. Time to strike out on your own, relinquish your over-dependency on others. And that can be coming from all kinds of areas, right? And dependencies are often, born of habit rather than choice. We just don't realize it. Or they are very subtly presented to us as a choice, and then we participate in our own objectification. That was my research, my psychology research in 2008. That's what I found, is that the temporal and physical environments that support certain types of activities, yes, there was a high level of participation, quantitatively. But what I found was when it wasn't obvious and it was just this little nudge of one piece of the environment that supported the same basic activity, more people participated in their own objectification when they thought it was their choice and it wasn't being presented to them so blatantly. I had no idea that research would be so incredibly relevant to now. It's really too bad it never got published, because I think it was really important. So anyway, the cat is saying, step back from what you've been habitually dependent on, and kind of start to take some responsibility for yourself and what you think, how you feel, like where are your choices? And you know how cats are, they do whatever they want. Now, Mercury is in conjunction with Vega today, the Lyran star of Vega. And the feline is a big representation of the Lyran signature, right? There's a lot of variability, but the feline is very connected to the Lyrans. And so I'm getting a big signal about the Lyran starseed aspect, with Mercury in particular being in conjunction with Vega. It is really important that we are realizing what it actually takes in order to be successful in whatever we're doing. And it means not being held back by anybody, right? This Queen of Keys is somebody we have to let go of, or some role that we've been in we have to let go of, an actual person or a dependency on this person or what this card embodies, and strike out on our own. And this is part of the initiation, right? And this might be as simple as forgiving a situation that we didn't think we could, and actually feeling it. And when, like I said, when Jupiter comes into Pisces, we're going to get all the resources that we need and advocacy, and it's going to be like a sigh of relief. It's just going to be like a melting into, not even a melting, it is just going to be the solvent. And allow us to experience directly our illumination. But it will require that we step outside of our old habits and our old dependencies that we think are our choices. And we all do this, right? It's not like I don't have this experience. Like, we're all going through this together. And this is why I'm here to share this, what I'm going through, along with everyone else in their own way. So when it comes to our Six of Forces here, so the octopus is back. So we're talking about shape-shifting, we're talking about camouflage, but we're also talking about flexibility, adaptability, and the ability to handle incredible amounts of water pressure, right? Which is very necessary in order to dig under the surface with Archangel Uriel and the Sphinx. Okay, so the octopus represents a lot of different things. You have the eightfold path. You have the octave, right, where you're different. Your resonance is different. It's an octave higher, but you're still who you are. And it's the same with the octopus, right? The octopus will change the color of their own skin, right? And so they look different to reflect what's going on inside, and literally shifting their shape in order to fit into areas, but they're still fundamentally who they are. But I do get the sense here that this is about not only being flexible and adaptable, but the ability to handle incredible amounts of pressure, right? An octopus or squid that live in deep water have enzymes that reinforce their cell walls so they aren't crushed under the pressure. Because we do need some pressure. We need like a pressure washer that is going to cut through stone. Because one thing that is pretty clear with this card being reversed is that many people have continued to sidestep their work and their healing. And we have to recommit. And that means we have to make a greater effort because we've slacked off, because we're waiting for some sort of outside, something from the outside to let us know that everything is going to be okay. And we really need to collectively renew our priority for this inner work. It's the only way that is actually going to be reflected back to us in the outer world of the changes we actually want to see. And so if you found yourself slacking off, I'm pretty sure that now that Chiron is direct, it's pretty obvious. And there's kind of no getting around it unless we are completely numbed out or we are completely just checked out. And some people are, and some people's soul continues to fragment and split from them, their material self, every time they do something that traumatizes them. And that's a lot of different things right now. So, but if we're going to make this commitment to a greater effort because we have slacked off and we need to renew our priority to this inner work and dig deep, we need an intense amount of water pressure in order, if we want to do this, to to literally move the rock substance out of the way. And a waterfall is a great representation of that, because that's gravity, right? Gravity and the surface tension of water is incredible. And so it can actually, it's a solvent, right? It's it is the solvent, right? Water is the solvent. And so under incredible amounts of pressure, we can actually dig down further than we could otherwise. And so, but that requires that we are flexible, adaptable, and capable of handling higher amounts of pressure, maybe within ourselves, in order to go deeper into the mysteries of who we really are, because that's ultimately what this represents. Now, Uriel is the fire of God. So now we come back into this alchemical process where we have fire and water together for the transmutation. And that's part of the initiation process and the alchemical transmutation at a personal and at a base level, right? Where we're really grounding and stabilizing ourselves. So it's not just water and it's not just fire. And I assure you, there is plenty of fire to go around, right? When we get into the astrology for today, we'll see that Mars is active and actively allowing this alchemical fire to start to surface. So there's also that as well. But there's something very important about the water and our feelings. It's our feelings that actually resonate and attract to us that which is resonant and whatever that is that we want. And it also can, just like I said, universal solvent. It's a solvent, right? The power of our forgiveness, the power of our compassion is incredible. And it will allow us to really get down deeper than maybe we've ever been. And there's always somewhere deeper to go. Like, it's an endless process. And I know people don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. So that's pretty powerful, I would say. So we're going to get into the astrology for today, and then that way I can move on to getting these astrology horoscope forecasts recorded and sent out before the weekend. So let's open this again and just take a minute here to, or a couple minutes, to really look at where things are right now. So I'm gonna close some windows here. All right. Yeah, all these non-humans that are here. I don't know who they are. They're obviously desperate. They are desperate. You can see the desperation just in general with everything. Just, because it's not, for some people, it's just not working anymore on them. So they have to up their game, and they have a stale and overplayed playbook. They only have so many things that they can really use on people to keep them mesmerized and trick them. And it's just kind of not working anymore. So, I mean, there's certainly whole new levels of experience. So here we are for today. All right. Like I said, it's not tons of transits. They're just they're moon transits, but they're important moon transits, because you're going to see that this quincunx to Neptune, there'll be a quincunx to Venus and a quincunx to Pluto by the end of the day. So let's unpack this just a little bit, because the quincunx to Neptune has already happened. So as we get into the last 10 degrees of Leo, this is all right. It's like you start to really get a handle on that Kundalini energy that is radiating, right? Not just going up the spine, but it also, I feel like, actually descends down as well. Like the central point is the sacral area, and then it kind of like explodes out. As well, and up and down, right? It's longitudinal, right? And if you're into Dan Winter and his physics of bliss and his physics of alchemy. He's really incredible, the work that he has done over many years to actually understand this spiritual tech from a physicist's perspective. And he's an electrical engineer, so he really is very mostly interested in data and verifiable things. So I really value the work he's done so much, and you can easily access his work on YouTube. And in fact, I think I'll maybe post his most recent video on the physics of alchemy in social media. Anyway, so the quincunx with Neptune. So the other thing is that as we get into these last degrees of Leo in general, it's either we kind of go crazy or we start to really embody this energy and start to become very devoted to a cause or a release of it, like we're fully in the experience. Now, the first degree in this last decan of Leo, by the way, is a very funny symbol, right? It's like chickens that are flapping their wings like crazy trying to fly. And if you know about chickens, they don't fly, right? They can kind of fly like a little bit, but they don't really fly. But yet they're kind of flapping crazily trying to do so. And it represents kind of that first experience of the Kundalini awakening where you kind of go crazy, right? And it's immature still, like it's an explosion, or I guess the way that Dan Winter talks about it, it's more of an implosion at first, but either way, it's so powerful. And yet we are still not really very masterful. That happens in Virgo, to really hold it. So feeling this way, and then in the quincunx with Neptune, that is, again, just kind of having everything. Now, Neptune, talk about a solvent, right? I mean, Neptune is the one that goes around and is dissolving everything, right? Is the agent of that. And so it almost may douse that fire in some ways if we don't keep that core like charge going. So, and how easily could we just have somebody throw a bucket of water on us in a moment where we're kind of like starting to destabilize in some ways? This is this quincunx. So how do we utilize this energy? How do we adjust ourselves in this moment when everything around us is completely submerged into everything else, just like, with all of Pisces, really? And it's, where is... The moon in Leo has been an interesting experience, right? Have you found yourself just being like, it's all about me, and getting really pissed off, or getting really upset, or just getting really into your own experience and wanting to express it, or at least feeling it so strongly? This is where it reaches like a fever pitch. And then the quincunx to Neptune is like, like I said, it just douses everything and just puts out that fire to the point where it doesn't even, we can easily be completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Like doused, right? It's just like a wet blanket in some ways, which maybe is a good thing. But the quincunx here really suggests that there is a transmutational moment here that we have an opportunity for, and there needs to be some measure of adjustment, because we don't want to lose what has been building as a result of this transit with the moon in Leo, but we also don't want to kind of go, we don't want it to be destructive in any way. But so this moment here of adjustment with this incredibly powerful, potent, dissolving agent of compassion and forgiveness and trust and surrender with Neptune in Pisces is very interesting. And I feel like, this is already something that has transpired in terms of the moon transit. It's already moved past this point. And I think that I think that if you already have been like feeling this by the time it got to this point this morning, you're already adjusted, right? There's already been an adjustment in this way of moving past what seems like a premature expansion of energy within us, but it isn't really at all. It's just a matter of being able to adjust it and to square the circle, so to speak. And the circle does feel a lot like where Neptune in Pisces is, our infinite self. And so how do we encase our infinite self in some sort of emotional or feeling based experience of intensity, right? Of energy, just like kind of radiating out all over the place very quickly. I feel like that this has already made itself known, and the adjustment has already happened for many people. I feel like it's happened for me in particular. So as we move throughout the day, the other quincunxes that are going to become relevant have to do with Venus and Pluto. So it'll be back to back, right? The moon will come into a quincunx with Pluto first, and then we'll come into that quincunx with Venus. And when you start getting into even later degrees of Leo, you are really kind of working with the rainbow after the heavy storm, or the dawn in the eastern sky, the return of something, right? The return of something good, or the covenant being fulfilled, or exaltation and of new opportunities at, a new cycle at the dawn of a new cycle, right? And so we may be feeling, and this is much later today, you can see that this is 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, between the hours this morning and then leading up to this quincunx, these two quincunxes, we have some time to really kind of experience the moon still moving through Leo, and then it makes these connections to Pluto and Venus, who are, for the most part, making very destructive but very transformational connections here. And it's going to, again, we're going to have to adjust ourselves in this moment as we're feeling, oh, look, there's a rainbow after the storm, right? Like the idea that it's all good. And the idea that there's a new cycle coming. And this is, again, the moon. So this is how we feel. This is how we feel on the inside. This is what is representing our internal emotional landscape in a lot of ways. And so we may feel very excited, ready to take on this new cycle. And then we have Venus and Pluto that are basically just destroying every bit of stability for pretty much our whole lives. Capricorn represents the institutions of reality that make up reality. So again, more adjustment. We don't want to lose this fire, but we have to also be realistic about what these aspects represent, because they are going to meet each other on Christmas Day, on the 25th again. So it's important that we don't lose sight of what this is, but also lean into it. Like, realize that adjustment is absolutely imperative in this moment, because we can't be like, so hyper fixated on how we feel in the moment that we don't even acknowledge what is going on in the society around us and the impact that it's having on us and other people. So that, again, the adjustment is an opportunity to transmute. There's so much transmutational energy available today. And speaking of which, this is Mars in 7 to 8 degrees of Sagittarius is very much about this. It's about the alchemical fire that purifies and transforms, right? And it's a process that goes on unnoticed by our own ego until it becomes obvious that something has changed. So Mars is acting on this and acting in a way that is creating our own reality out of what actually exists, and taking control of the circumstances right in front of us and ready to act in our own self-interest. That's what Mars does. Now, Mars is in Sag, so it's acting in its own self-interest based on the meaning that is being given to, everything. But this is something has finally mutated mutated, that has been gestating under the surface alchemically, probably, I would say, well, who knows, for a long time. And Mars is now the agent of this, of the action based on this, right? And it's about creating. It's about creating our own reality. It's out of what actually exists, and it comes from what has been brewing under the surface that is now erupting and coming to the surface, and Mars seeing an opportunity and acting on it. So there is a lot of fire as well in today's chart. Now, Saturn, like right on cue, just came into the next degree of Aquarius, so you can definitely feel the shift from that as well into the degree that it's going to square Uranus exactly, which is about the necessity of recognizing everybody's different, right? There's a natural progression as we are on this staircase graduated upward, and people are in all different positions, and we're all equals in the eyes of the Great Spirit. We're all equals in the eyes of God. We're all divine beings, but growth and progression is on a staircase. This is what this Sabian symbol represents. And so while Uranus in Taurus is representing the consistent glitching of reality that we could have or not have based on just having kind of a youthful experience of window shopping reality, window shopping the fixed earth that we could have. The square here is that we're not all going to be on the same level, even as this is happening. And we want to innovate. We want to move towards the future. We want to wake up, right? Uranus, we want to individuate. We want to look towards the future, right? Uranus is representing all of these possibilities and is the collective third eye opening. But Saturn is, these two are they are natural foes. And so for them to square off is so destructive. And Saturn is in the territory of Uranus, right? So it's also being like, well, Uranus, you do realize, of course Uranus realizes it, as if Uranus has a personality. It's just a planet, but it has an energetic signature just like everything else. And we're all in a different place because that's exactly where we need to be. And we need to accept that. And I think that the holidays, like something like Christmas, for instance, where a lot of people are gathering with family and there's just so much drama and there's just so much intensity around certain choices or directions people are taking, that these things are going to really challenge each other. So, but this is Saturn moved in today. And so in some ways you can find a sense of groundedness and stability in form in this realization that we're all on the staircase. We're all going to the same place ultimately, just like I've talked about. We're at the event horizon. We're all going over the edge into the black hole together. But where people are in their process is absolutely part of their journey. And we can try, but we can't force anybody to do anything the way that we think we should do them. And until Uranus stations direct in Taurus, we're still internalizing a lot of this window shopping of reality here. And we want everybody else to come along with us, because then it'll validate the fact that we picked this particular, it's like, oh, I like that. I want that. But I need everybody else to acknowledge that that's a good thing so that I feel like it's the right thing. And we're just going to have to let it go. We have to realize that part of a healthy Aquarian collective is that people are in different places. So instead of being focused on who's up there and trying to get there, you focus on where you're at and how you're going to go up. Or instead of focusing on judging people who are down there, maybe reach out your hand, right? Or offer support, or just wave and acknowledge their existence and be like, I love you, right? Again, forgiveness, compassion, understanding, unconditional love. So that's the astrology for today, my friends. So I think I'm just going to, I must be over the target. Oh, I'd love to think that. I would love to think that. I think that that's probably the case. There's been some keywords that have come up in the last week or so that I'm sure are being flagged big time. So it's fine, whatever. At this point, I'm not really even worried about it. So my friends, I'm going to leave it there for today. Thank you for being here. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. So I already gave the spiel earlier about subscribing, liking the video. Stick around to the end of the video if you want more information or how to support this work or how to book a personal reading. All of that stuff will be available for you to check out. And it's all in the description box below as well. So you can access whatever you need in terms of social media, website, email, and even the links to the intro and the outro music, because that's royalty-free music, and you can support that artist too by going and checking out the rest of their catalog. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I really, truly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that you are doing as well as you can, taking care of yourself as well as you can, taking care of each other as well. And we're gonna be good. We'll be good. But it's a difficult, very difficult time, and to not acknowledge that seems, I don't know. It just seems silly. I think we're doing great, but that doesn't mean that we don't have work to do still. And I am here for you. This is what I'm here to do, is to facilitate this process for people. And, carrying with it all of my experience over decades in various professions and industries that are directly related to these very things. So if you're interested in some guidance, there are ways that you can reach out and we can get started on that. So guys, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow for the astrology. Keep an eye out for here for the astrology, the sign, the forecasts by sign. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, either on BitChute or YouTube or Odysee, you should definitely subscribe, because then you'll know when I start dropping those videos, and you can find your sign and get a little bit of insight into how the next week and the next new moon is going to impact you, what areas of your life. So, all right, with that being said, my friends, I love you. Have a great day. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow.